I'm Brian Freiberger, editor for the Leelanau Enterprise. Thank you for checking us out. Today, my guest is Justin Michal of Grayling, who is running for Michigan 1st Congressional District as a Republican. Michal is squaring off against incumbent Jack Bergman and challenger Matthew DenOtter in the Republican primary. The primary will occur on August 4th. The general election will occur on November 3rd. And then on the Democratic side, we have Kelly Barr, Kyle Bloomquist, and Wayne Stiles square off while Zubelin Featherly is running as an independent. I plan on interviewing all candidates, so please follow along to these episodes and make sure to like and subscribe and find us on our social media at leelanaunews.com. All right, Justin, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for meeting with me and having me today. I'm looking forward to the questions that you have to answer.
Heck yeah. And well, I just want to give you a few minutes just to kind of introduce yourself of who you are, where you come from, and why did you decide to run for Congress?
Well, my name, as you said, is Justin Michael, and I'm from Grayling, Michigan. I was fortunate enough to be raised in this amazing district, something that I'm learning more and more about as I get to travel thousands and thousands of miles through it, meeting with people that are like me, that share the same values. I graduated from Grayling High School, something I'm proud of. My mom also graduated from Grayling High School. We've had property here since 1932. So our roots in this area are really important, and I love to be here and be part of the community. One of the main reasons that I got into running for Congress is I just didn't feel that I was being represented. I didn't think I was being heard, and I didn't feel like there was a strong presence of congressional leadership in the district. And that's something that I want to change. It's something that I look forward to changing when elected.
Yeah, yeah. And when did you so you went to Grayling High School, right?
Yes, I did.
And then you went into the army right after that, correct?
Yeah, so I graduated from Grayling High School. I went down to Florida, went to IMG Academies in Bradenton, Florida, where I played golf. I was preparing to get on the PGA Tour. 9/11 happened at that point, and I come from a military family. My father was a retired colonel, and I felt the need to serve my country. So I called my father, said, "Can you help me? I want to join the military." He kind of chuckled a little bit. He said, "What do you want to do? Play golf in the army?" And I said, "No, Dad, I want to go fight." And he said, "Sure, son, come home." It was really a proud moment for him. I was fortunate enough to have my father swear me into the United States Army, which is not something that everyone gets a chance to do. But my father, being an officer, was able to swear me in the military and give me my oath, which was incredible, something I'll never forget. And I was then fortunate enough to deploy overseas during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Served 14 and a half months in combat, in a combat tour over there with uh, a special operations group. And during that time, I was injured in combat and came home. Some of the injuries that I sustained in combat made it impossible for me to continue my military service, so I was medically retired, and that left me in a position that a lot of veterans find themselves in. Figuring out what's next, what's the next stage, and dealing with those injuries that are long term. So that put me on a different path, and that path put me in the direction of conflict resolution. I found myself in conflict with a weapon, and then later I found myself in conflict with my words and my voice and my intelligence. So it's been a long road for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's certainly interesting, and just just and you made it back here. You're currently living in Grayling, right?
Yep, I live in levels. So
Living levels. Heck yeah, awesome. Well, good deal. I got to get out there myself. I haven't been out there in a little bit,
welcome.
and hey, I'm warming up the swing right now. I'm ready to hit the course.
Yeah, well, listen, if you want to come over and play golf, you're welcome anytime. I'll
Cool,
take you.
cool, man. Heck
I've been
yeah,
a member of Grayling Country Club since I was 6 years old. So it's
yeah.
something that I maintained my membership even when I was away, even when I was in the military. So it's one way that I can give back to my community always. But no matter where I was in the world, we have a club championship, which I haven't won. I finished second a few times, third a few times. Uh, but I always come back no matter when it is. Even if I buy my membership for the year and I only play two or three times, the practice round and the two rounds of our tournament. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. And some people always question, geez, Justin, you buy a membership just to come and play in that tournament. When I was a kid, I always wanted to win it. I still haven't won it. I've chased that dream for many years. But I'm happy that I'm always back to play. So if you want to play golf, come back. We'll go out and play anytime.
Heck yeah, and well, if you get out this, I know it'll be a busy summer for you, but I'm sure if you get out there, hey, best of luck in your
Yeah, you
tournament.
probably got a really good shot at beating me no matter what you're at.
I don't know,
I don't get
I
a
don't
chance
know,
to
man.
play at
But
all anymore. So
since I moved up here, I just just love it. And then I cover high school golf and all the golf courses and all that sort of stuff. So you just kind of get involved with it, and it's just a great community, just in northern Michigan and those and I think those Grayling Viking, I think they're doing pretty decent. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, getting off track here talking about golf, but just yesterday you post on social media about gas and
yeah,
how that's going to affect people.
it's not
I
just
just kind of
people, it's businesses too. I mean, whenever people see the gas prices, they always assume, well, it's just me paying gas and I can afford to pay a little bit of money and pay out of pocket for gas. But a lot of times people don't take into consideration how it hurts our industries here. And we have some very diesel reliant industries in our district. Farming's a huge one. I mean, just the amount of diesel fuel that's required to plant, extremely expensive right now, especially being, even if you're buying it in bulk and getting it delivered, it's like very expensive. All of the crews that are now out working to redo our roadway systems and our bridges. They're all running on diesel. And when they put those bids in, diesel prices weren't this high. And it's not something you just go back and say, oh, well, we need more money for diesel fuel. I mean, sometimes they can put in a premium. You're looking at loggers, people who are out there every day running equipment that's burning 100, 150 gallons of diesel fuel per day. You're looking at the excavating companies that are now getting back in and putting in foundations and clearing people's driveways and stuff. They're now having to put surcharges on the people. Last and last, but not least, you're talking about trucking, which is huge here, thousands of miles of roads. So people, when you talk about the price of fuel, you have the consumer market, but when you're talking about the business market, it's putting a huge strain on businesses here, and it's making it very difficult for them to keep, maintain, or hire new employees because of the extra cost of fuel.
yeah, yeah. And obviously, what's going on in the world right now, why this is happening, I guess right now I just kind of want to hear your stance of, you know, do you think Congress should have a vote of whether to go to war with Iran, especially if it's, going to have this mass impact on the people? And, from what I understand, this is why, the gas prices are surging.
Yeah, so the War Powers Act is an important position, and I do think we've gotten to the point now where we should be voting on it in Congress. I mean, we've done our military strikes, and we've gotten to a point now where we're trying to negotiate a peace deal between them, or a better negotiation. But the War Powers Act is something that's vital, but at the same time, a vote is necessary. If we're going to continue to have conflict in the region, then Congress needs to vote on that.
Yeah, interesting. And I just kind of, obviously this is a three-horse race at this point with you Bergman and DenOtter. I guess just what makes you different from, first the incumbent and then, DenOtter.
Well, Congressman Bergman, I respect him and appreciate his service to the country. Nearly 60 years of service to the United States. That's an impressive run. But there comes a time where you need change. And one of the main differences that I think I bring to the table is my ability to want to have conversations with both sides of the aisle. When he first came into office, he said he was going to use his Marine Corps experience to unite people. And that hasn't happened. In this district, 40% of the constituents have been forgotten. And that's sad. And they're angry. And they're not angry in a violent method. They're angry at the fact that their voice is never heard. And now we've gotten to the point where a lot of Republicans feel like they're not heard either. And presence is one of the biggest things that I hear. And for me, I care about this district because I'm from here. I was raised here. This is my home. And presence is something that I want to be. This is where I want to be at. Yeah, you have to go to Washington, D.C. to make votes and cast your vote and make an impact. But after that, it's time to come home and spend time with your constituents. So that's one of the differences. Obviously, age is another one. We don't want to bring in the ageism argument, but it's important to highlight and acknowledge. Congressman Bergman will turn 80 once elected. I'm 43 years old. This is the largest congressional district this side of the Mississippi. It's huge. The amount of effort and energy and attention that it takes for you to navigate this space and to be out there and give your all to people when you're considering nearly a 9.5 hour drive from the southernmost tip of Aranet County all the way to the northernmost in the Keweenaw, or if you want to go all the way to the west, it, in Ironwood, you're looking at 9.5 hours of drive time. And there's a reason why people don't feel like the congressman is present because it's a huge district. And if you want to be productive, you've got to get out and have conversations with everyone that you can in every county and all the small towns too. You can't just go to your area. So that's the biggest thing is my youth, my ability to have dialogue and discussion and my willingness to want to be present in the district. As for the other person that's running against me, I I don't really know much about his campaign. He got in quite early. He's running a lot of commercials, trying to send out mailers, going out and attempting to speak to people, saying that he's from the district and cares. He did run in the 11th for Congress. He's only been up here about a year, he says, based on his commercials. I've yet to see him at any of the Republican functions in the district, and I've been to nearly every one of them. I I don't know. I've been on the campaign trail for 14 and a half, no, 15 months now. We're in May. So for 15 months, I've been on the campaign trail. I've done over 74,000 miles in the district. I guess the difference is I'm present in the district and I go out and meet constituents. So, if he's going to try to make up ground by spending more money, he can attempt to do that. But we focus on people and their concerns and their needs. And the only way that you can know what this district needs is to be out there with the people and ask them the questions and get the answers and responses from them.
And so Jack Bergman, has not had a proper debate since, and I don't want to be wrong, but before 2020. Would if any of those opportunities would come about, would you accept a debate with Bergman and DenOtter?
Absolutely. I've called for it in the first congressional district. I've called for it online. I've attended forums that were run by democratically controlled individuals. I went to 11 forums where I stood on a panel and was asked questions that were left leaning against Kyle Blomquist, Wayne Stiles, Zebulon Featherly. And I was the first person to accept that challenge when they called and asked, would you be present? Knowing that I wasn't going to necessarily be speaking to the people who are voting for me, but I wanted them to know that I am open and willing to engage in any dialogue, discussion, or debate, or forum, or town hall that people want to have. So it's not only just debating Jack Bergman or Matthew DenOtter that's important, although I've called for it and I would love to do it at any given time. It's also being able to have those discussions and dialogue with people who have opposing views. And I think that I thrive in areas where there is opposition. Difficult conversations are important to have because that's where you learn the most.
And and then just kind of moving on here, just a few days ago, a Congress approved FISA. I guess, and Bergman voted yes to support it and renew it for I believe, I forget, is another 3 years. Um, I guess, what's your thoughts on that, and would you support that measure, or why not?
Yeah, I wasn't really happy with that vote. I mean, I understand the argument as to why it should exist, and you're going to get some pushback, especially from Republicans saying, no, you don't care about the safety and concerns of the country. And I'm actually more concerned about the safety and concerns of people. The Patriot Act is another one of those examples. It's typically used, or it's at least promoted or projected to be used against adversaries. but we always come to find out later that it's used to spy on Americans. And when you have that massive data breach of that information, it becomes alarming and concerning. And with the advancement of AI technologies and even companies like Anthropic coming out and saying, we're concerned about some of these things. And the way that intelligence gathering is going into artificial intelligence and not having the regulatory factors on those, and then pushing measures like this through Congress, it's a significant concern. It's a safety concern, it's a constitutional concern. And I just don't know why we continuously vote to support things that infringe on our constitutional rights. And this is another example of that. I would have voted not in favor of passing it had I been on the floor and had the vote.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess just kind of, moving along with, kind of your agenda, I know, one of your main slogans is, building bridges. Sorry if I didn't get that exactly right, but
Bridging the divides, yes.
bridging the divide. And I guess what do you mean by that? And, what do you see? How could you work with, other parties, other constituents to, to make that happen? Because, building those bridges involves everybody.
Yeah, so bridging the divide started. I'm a conflict resolution specialist by trade. And one of the most important factors of resolving any kind of conflict is dialogue. And one of the main factors of dialogue in order to establish trust is to come in, if you have inherent bias, which we all have, identify what those inherent bias factors are, and then try to come into a conversation with neutrality. Because at the end of the day, it's about Americans, putting Americans first. And so when you're putting Americans first, you've got to meet a threshold that benefits both political aisles or both political sides. And I know that's difficult, but our country has been torn apart. And if we don't find ways to come together and we continue to use division as our platform, we're not going to get anywhere. Nothing's going to get done. And people ask all the time, Justin, what's your agenda? My agenda is the agenda of the people. And the only way that I can best represent people is to hear what concerns that they have and the solutions they think that will work and how does that benefit a threshold of 70% of the people in this district and then promote that. And that's what I want to do. I want to represent people. I understand that we have party influences. As a Republican, I have Republican values. I'm a conservative. I'm fiscally conservative. I care about the country, but at the end of the day, I'm an American. And I have to focus on the people of my district. And that includes independents and Democrats. So you have to be willing to have those discussions, even if they don't believe in all the things that I believe in. Got to be able to sit down with them and say, what matters to you? And then try to find a solution to work together so we can improve the lives of people here, so we can improve the opportunities here, and so we can improve prosperity in Michigan's first congressional district.
And then, I'm over here in Lake Leelanau myself, so we're the biggest grower of tart cherries here in the state and in the country and one of the biggest in the world. And so I guess this next one just on cherries. So cherry farmers here in northern Michigan have struggled with foreign competition and price pressure. What specific trade or farm policy would you support to protect them and make sure they stay profitable? Is there any light for cherry farmers in your plan?
I hope there's light for all farmers, right? We've done a really poor job of promoting local farms. And I've spoke to blueberry farmers, I've spoke to cherry farmers, I've spoke to dairy farmers, I've spoke to cattle ranchers here. I'm I'm sad at the struggle and the pressure that we put on. Some of it is policy from the Fed. Some of it's just the way that people purchase or who doesn't purchase local. My biggest concern or the biggest issues that I'm facing are the H-1A visas and how people get those workers to come in. H-1A and H-1B visas are something I'd really like to streamline and focus on. It's a heavy expense. It's often a significant concern for people because they don't know if they're going to get the same workers every year. And a lot of times people look at it, the H-1A and H-1B visas is not skilled laborers. But when those people have been at the same place for years, they are skilled. They're very talented in some of the things they do, like pruning and picking and, and operational stuff. So for farmers in particular who use those, I would really like to streamline the process of those visa applications and make sure that they know who they're getting ahead of time, not something that they foresee or find themselves in a loophole or a concern with because they're the unknown or the changes in immigration policy. So that's one thing I want to do to help farmers. There's a lot more, and I would love to sit down with more farmers and get an understanding of what each and every one of their needs are. Cherry, that's a specific industry. So, just to be able to be accessible to them and say, what is it that you need? I'm all ears. Give me all the information that you have and what you need to change. I know every farm is different. Every demand is different, but tell me what you need so I can make it better.
Mhm. Yeah, and my next question is, I guess just a general question, just on your view of data centers and AI and how that's going to impact the region in the coming years, especially as what a third of our economy is now is AI or maybe even more of it with these companies. I guess just how are you going to protect Michiganders while I mean I'm not an old school guy. I believe there's definitely use in this world for AI, but what's your plan with AI and data centers, or if you have one, or just what's your general view of that?
Yeah, so on my website, if you go to it, I created a document that I've been going around and sharing with communities, and it's essentially a baseline plan for them to prepare for the data center debate. And I would love to tell people that it's going to go away. It's not. And data center developers are going to be coming to northern Michigan because we have an abundance of fresh water that can be used to cool these. And we have a very rural area. Most of the congressional district that we have, we are a target. One of the things we don't have an abundance of is power, but we also have the resources that are necessary to produce massive amounts of power too, which is water. Need to cool water. So we're on the block. We're definitely in the eyes and scope and realm of all of these developers. And we have an abundance of land that's rural that they can use. And we have people who are not ready for those discussions. So it's almost predatory. So you asked me a question, what am I going to do? What do I think? First and foremost, I think that local communities should be the ones that have the power to decide if they want these or if they don't. I, it's not my place or position to tell a community what they need or what they want. And I know they're going to start at the congressional level and they're going to try to push and they're going to try to ask me to go into these communities and convince them that this is great for them. But at the end of the day, my job is to give them the information that they need to make the best decision for them possible. So that's available. You can download that on PDF form if you're in a community. If you're listening and you're in a community that's concerned, you can go on my website and download that PDF. And if you need me to come and have a conversation or discussion with community leaders about that, I'm more than happy to. I've done that in a few of the counties in this district, the people who really want to know and ask questions because people aren't prepared. They don't understand what's coming, the scale, the scope, the magnitude of these data centers, how much investment is there. It's hard to fathom or grasp how much of an investment those are, especially when they're on large scale product or projects. So when you're looking at those considerations, communities need to start getting prepared now. And it's not a warning. It's just it's coming. You need to be prepared. And the best thing you can do is start by getting a task force together and start analyzing some of these things. People say, well, we have zoning boards that are already prepared. Yes, building Martha's woodshed or she shed or putting in a fence is different than building a 3.5 to $12 billion data center. So it's really important that communities start getting prepared. And I want to provide them with as much knowledge as they can to make an educated decision that's beneficial for their communities and their communities alone.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it's interesting. It's that debate's heating up constantly, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here with that. And so my next question is, you're a veteran, Bergman's a veteran. Where would you differ in taking care of veterans in the district?
Well, I differ because I worked at the Department of Veterans Affairs for 5 years in mental health. So I was fortunate enough to help soldiers that were transitioning from combat operations to civilian life. And it's a struggle. Well, we were fortunate enough working at the vet center to be able to have more of an intimate relationship with those veterans. It's a very, very friendly, very peaceful setting for them to come. It was actually vet centers were actually created because people didn't trust the VA and they needed kind of an offshoot of the VA for Vietnam veterans to go to because the VA had done such a terrible job after the Vietnam War with veterans care and service. So we uh, we really pride ourselves on doing good work at the vet center that I worked at. And during that process, a lot of the calls that you would take weren't related to what you were doing. It was soldiers that couldn't find appointments or doctors would cancel or it'd be terrible, terrible care or they needed funeral benefit information or they didn't know how to get their benefits. They didn't know about VSOs. They were struggling to find health care. A lot of veterans were getting swept under the rug, and it was something I prided myself in is helping veterans as much as possible in that realm. And the VA is never going to be perfect. It's certainly not perfect now. The VA conditions in northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula are scarce. We have one VA regional hospital, which is over in Iron Mountain. It's a long drive. The next closest one is Saginaw. We have a lot of CBOCs that are in the area, but those are limited. We had one in Grayling. They're closing that, moving on. So I'm one of the big pushes that I think is necessary is we need a VA regional hospital in northern lower Michigan, something centrally located off of I-75 that can service veterans here. You know, and why people are like, well, if they can go to a CBOC, that's great, or you have community care, which they've pushed a lot of. Still, it's hard to get specialists or get into those factors. Some people love community care, other people love to go to a hospital. And when you have a lot of veterans in our like we have in our district, it's really important to be able to get them the care and meet the concerns that they have and the needs that they have. And having a regional medical center slotted and built in northern lower Michigan would be awesome because it would give veterans the opportunity to go into a place and seek medical care and see specialists instead of having to drive all over the district. For an example, I had an issue with my one of my teeth. I couldn't get into a local dentist, so I had to go to Iron Mountain. Then they had to schedule me in Iron Mountain to go get a root canal, and that happened in Petoskey. So imagine if you're a veteran that has to drive 750 miles in order to get a root canal done, it's pretty tough. And the other dentists here are 4 to 6 months behind. So the veteran care is super important to me. We need to improve those things. I know that the congressman sits on the VA Appropriations Committee. That's a great committee to sit on. A really expensive seat to purchase in order to be on it, but it's something that is really important. Veterans care is something that is near and dear to my heart and something that I will never stop doing. We have some great organizations that are in our district as well. 22 to None is a great one, doing great things for veterans with mental health issues. So yeah, I I appreciate Congressman Bergman's efforts, especially toward veterans, but we need someone to pass the torch and pick up the slack. And I am well versed in veteran care.
Mhm. Yeah, and only got a few more minutes left here, so I guess I'll just kind of leave you with, a closing statement. Just I know your great grandfather Edward Morrison served in the Michigan House of Representatives from 1926 1934, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Um, do you see any comparisons of that time and this time, and what have you learned from looking back at that about, running these types of races? I know it's not exactly the same as the race he had back then, but I'm sure there's some lessons we learned in that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, times are kind of similar in a weird sense. You know, it's like the roaring 20s right now. and we don't know where this is going to end up. Even some of the smartest, most brightest, and wealthiest minds in the world don't know what's going to come. And we have a lot of changes, a lot of transitions that are taking place, especially with AI. You talked about it. The next 5 years are going to really change our trajectory in terms of technology in this country. And that's exciting and terrifying in the same sentence. So, there's a lot of things that need to take place in order for us to get back on track. It's unfortunate that we've gotten to this point, and this point being the division that we have in our country, the almost hateful and spiteful conversations that we have when we don't agree with each other politically. I think we need to get back to the basis of remembering that we're all people at heart, and we need to start caring about our neighbors, regardless of what color their hair is, what vehicle they drive, and who they voted for in the last election. We need to get back to being decent and common and good and start caring about each other. And I don't I don't understand why we're at where we're at, but I do understand this. We need to work together to make it through what's coming. And that's not a that's not said lightly. I'm not treading lightly with that. I'm actually saying that with a sincere heart. It's difficult to stand on the red line and say we need to talk to people on the blue. There's not a lot of people that agree with that, but it's imperative that we do. And we do need to do that because we're good people and we care about our communities and we care about each other. And that's something that I'm pushing. Like I said, this campaign is about the people of this district. I'm just the voice. You guys are the drivers. And I care about that more than anything. This is not a campaign about special interest groups or corporations or foreign adversaries or politics. This is about people.
Okay, well, thank you, Justin Michael, and we wish you the best of luck, and we hope to talk to you here soon again here. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. You have to take care. May God bless you. May God bless this district.